Well, South Africa, as you heard, is currently dealing with an egg shortage. According to South African Poultry Association, eggs remain the fourth largest animal product sector in agriculture in South Africa after poultry, meat, beef and milk. Lately, consumers have been dealing with the high cost of eggs. Now, let's discuss this further. We're now joined by teams by Kopedi Pilane, African Poultry Producers CEO. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. You know, South Africans in most provinces, as we've heard, are already feeling, the effects of the avian flu outbreak. Given the shortages of eggs, what has been the impact of the outbreak on the sector as a whole?
The impact has been devastating. My colleagues in the egg industry have suffered dearly, and the impact is to be felt soon in the meat industry as well, as the breeding stock has been also affected. So it has been devastating to a point where it has put some of the farmers out of business, with the impact compounded by the rising cost of diesel and the rising cost of putting more measures in terms of biosecurity. It is a serious situation out there. Businesses are closing in the poultry industry as we speak.
And in fact, it has been described as, one of the worst outbreaks for the country. Over 7 million hens, as we've heard in the previous report, have been culled so far. Any indications from authorities on how this outbreak will be contained? Because we know, of course, it has affected about 7 provinces. We just heard now in Limpopo, certain parts of the province are affected while others are not.
Diseases don't have borders. So if you take, for instance, farmers in the Free State, they might be getting their day-olds, small chicks, from a province like Northwest. So it's cutting across. Now, what the department has done, we met the minister on Wednesday, on the 4th, and there's been some engagement with some major players in the industry in terms of what could be done to alleviate the situation. And there's been very little coming from government in terms of how to assist small players. So most of the solutions were based on making sure that there is enough supply in terms of making sure that the bigger players in the industry are covered. So there is a request by the industry for government to let more imports of fertilized eggs to come in, since the breeding stock has been affected, and also for the consumers, to alleviate the consumers' burden in terms of having access to fresh table eggs. There's been also a request to allow import of more table eggs so that consumers can have access to the protein, which is the eggs. Now, the challenge with eggs is that we don't have an immediate shortage. So there's been some intermediaries and some big players who've been hoarding the eggs because they're taking advantage of the situation. And we are saying this also needs to be looked at. The overpricing of the eggs is not justified in some instances. It's something that we should be looked at, but we also take into cognizance that when there is very few in the market, prices are escalated in some cases, and we believe that it's unjustified.
You talk about, of course, some sectors within the industry that are not playing ball, if I can call it that. In terms of imports, is there an indication of when this will happen? Because, this outbreak really was identified in April already in the Western Cape. It would seem, as some have suggested, that government is moving at a snail pace.
Yeah, no, this is an old problem. It just shows that sometimes our government only acts when there's a crisis. And we've always been willing to assist government in planning, making sure that such occurrences don't occur. If government doesn't actually listen to us as well again, this situation will reoccur, because this is something that it cannot be easily controlled, because you've got migratory birds who bring in the disease here when seasons change. So what we need to do is to make sure that we keep on putting measures in place, plan ahead, making sure that the farmers don't get compromised when the situation occurs, and when there is exposure, there should be measures in place in terms of biosecurity to make sure that the farmers and farms which are more vulnerable are actually assisted to put measures in place. But that is not happening. It's over decades, and I can hear you saying since April. It's happening almost every year if you can actually pay attention to these outbreaks. Now it's becoming a big news outbreak because people are impacted, the prices is going up. Farmers are being impacted every year. Every season, we've got problem. If it's not this disease, these other diseases that you don't know of, but the state is just slow in reacting. And we believe as farmer associations, especially from the black farmer producers, we can assist the state, making sure that as small players, remember when there's shortage, the small players are the first ones to be excluded in terms of access. And we are more in the more informal supply of these products in most cases. So what happens is that the impact becomes big, even more for the consumers who are poor and in small, in low-income communities. Now, those who can afford now are those who can pay those big prices you see. And who are those people? And those are benefiting big players who got now much better finances to put better measures to put biosecurity. And when killing happens, they can also do claims from the state, claims from their insurances, because the state, once there is an outbreak, they do an investigation to see what has been the farmers' role in making sure that there's prevention, and they will only assist if they see that you've been trying to make sure that there is a prevention of such outbreaks happening in your farm. So it's preventable. I can tell you that now. It's preventable. If you can sit with the state in terms of making sure that we make sure that this doesn't occur in the next few years, we will be able to do it. It's not something that's not surmountable. It's very much easy to deal with. But there's some dialogue and then some investment needs to be done, and making sure that we also assist those who cannot afford to put such measures, because once this disease is there, it can move from one farm to another with ease. So we need to prevent the whole industry, making sure that everybody is taken care of.
Mr. Pilane, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really do appreciate it. Kopedi Pilane, African Poultry Producers CEO.